Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we're going to do something a little fun. Now that summer has officially arrived, we are going to do a spring recap. So every season, as the seasons change, we're going to look back on this previous season and kind of do a recap. And we're going to do this by topic, by project, and to see how that project has progressed throughout the season. Because as you know, here at Creekside Nursery, we always have some type of project going on, whether it is here at the house or at the nursery or for whatever reason. And so you people are so sweet and follow along with us. And so we just thought it would be fun to go back, look at those kind of projects, and I can just share with you my thoughts, my feelings, the messes and successes. What have we learned from those various different situations that have happened in that previous season? So this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, first of all, what we're going to cover is, of course, our Proven Winners signature garden. This garden came to be, and the idea was first approached in spring of 2022 when Proven Winners came to us, asked us if we would be interested in doing a Proven Winners signature garden here at Creekside Nursery. We jumped at the chance, and so that is quite a process, of course, of creating, designing, implementing a Proven Winners signature garden. So a lot has happened in this season, right? So this spring, we started out with gorgeous tulips in the garden, right? It was brand new garden. It was not even a year old now. So back in the fall, we had planted lots of tulips to bring us lots of beautiful color. We had planted some pansies and some violas, and just to bring us that, fall, winter, very early spring interest in the color. And it was a great success. Our customers who came here to view that absolutely loved all of that beautiful spring color. So on the first day of spring, we did a garden tour of that space, and it's crazy to look back of basically the first day of spring all the way to the very end of spring, because you can see through the videos the absolute transformation that happened in this space. Once the tulips were done, of course, we treat them as annuals here in North Carolina because they will not come back as strong and as vigorous every year. So those come out, and then the summer annuals go in. Well, it was one of the things that I knew about this garden when I had started to design it in the fall, was that I knew that I wanted to have Super Petunia Vista Jazzberry on the front raised beds, right? So when you're looking at the garden, you can see those petunias. Jerry and I got them in, we try to get them in as early as possible in the garden, because that's one of the things that we have learned with Super Petunias, especially here in the South with our heat and humidity. The earlier you can get them in the ground, the better they will be this time of year when the heat has hit, right? So they are very cold tolerant. They can take those cooler temperatures down into the 30s, possibly even a light frost. Getting them in the ground with great organic material, using that biotone, all of that really makes a huge difference. We did a double row, right? So when we were planting those, we did a double row of the jazzberries. And I've told y'all this before, that when we were planting them, I told Jerry, I was like, honey, I just don't think this is enough. I don't think there's enough plants in here, because I really wanted to have coverage from the sprinter boxwoods all the way down to the river rock, that's that dry creek bed. I was like, I think we need a third row. It's just not enough, because in my brain, I just start second guessing myself. And Jerry was like, honey, there is plenty of petunias in here. It will cover it. It will be fine. And I was begrudgingly like, okay, fine. Well, clearly he was right. Those jazzberries are doing everything that my brain imagined them to do. And it's kind of funny. So people, either through comments and our guests that come here to the nursery, and they're like, what is your secret? What are you doing? Is there a secret fertilizer you're not telling us about? And there really is not. Those jazzberries, first of all, they're part of the Vista series. So if you want big, big color, like the snowdrifts behind me here, that Vista series is what you want to plant in the landscape. Also, plant them in mass. Now, mass depends on where you are. A mass in certain gardens could be 3 Vista Jazzberries. Depending on like where we are, when we have big open spaces, maybe it's 30, maybe it's 60. It does not matter. Don't get focused on the number of how many you plant. Think of the space that you want to fill in, then you go with that. Basically, we planted them about a foot apart from each other. Now that's a little bit closer than what Proven Winners recommended, but I wanted that look. I wanted the look of these snowdrifts to be on top of each other and this big, huge mound. Same thing with the jazzberries. So if you want that big, huge color, plant them a little closer together. Again, don't focus on how many I planted because I'm unique in a signature garden, a public garden. Your space could be different. Again, maybe you only need 2, maybe you only need 3. Go for that. So the only other thing that we did with those jazzberries that makes a huge difference, same thing back here, y'all, right here with these snowdrifts. Amend your soil with great compost. If you have annual areas, make sure you put that organic matter in there. These are heavy feeders. Doesn't mean necessarily they have to have like synthetic fertilizers, but if you give them great nutritious soil, my gosh, they will take off. We did use the Biotone. Every time we plant annuals, we use Biotone starter fertilizer. That is specifically for strong root growth. If you have happy roots, you have happy shoots. So we use the Biotone, and then we do use the Proven Winners, that continuous release fertilizer. That is the pelleted time release fertilizer that goes for a long distance. I have water soluble fertilized these snowdrifts 1 time, the jazzberries 1 time, and that is it. Using great soil, great compost, good starter fertilizer, and then really like getting them in as early as you possibly can makes a huge difference. So that is our secret for those jazzberries and these snowdrifts. And then of course we had tons of fun adding in like the Hoopla Vivid Orchid around the fountain. We did all of the plantings, those 4 inner beds. And then that day that I did, oh my gosh, the day that I did the raised beds with all of the annuals, I was flying solo that day. Just because it was spring, the nursery was busy. We had our folks were, busy shipping plants to everybody. So Jenny was flying solo, and that day just about killed me because I had to bring all the plants down. There was so many annuals that we were putting in there, brought those down, then trying to figure out the design and get them in the ground. Now, I tell you this, y'all, when you look back at those videos of both doing the Hoopla Vivid Orchid around the fountain and those raised beds, those plants were probably less than perfect, right? They were already starting to get a little long. They were starting to get a little leggy. They were getting, they really needed to be pruned back. And that's when we tell you, trust the root system, trust the plant. Getting them out of those grande containers, putting them in the landscape, putting them in a nice big container makes all the difference. If you need to go ahead and prune them back, do it. Just whack them. And I think those Hooplas, I think we pruned them back. I think we did. So when we planted them at the end of the day, it looked like little green sticks. Like it was not attractive. We know the plants, we amend the soil, we gave them that fertilizer, and they did exactly what we knew they were going to do. The Super Beana Pink Cashmere, put it in the ground. It was long, it was leggy, it was kind of pitiful looking. I knew the plant would respond, and of course it did. It was gorgeous. So if you buy or get annuals that are maybe a little long, a little leggy, get them in the ground, get them out of that container, get them in a bigger container, and then they will be just great. Looking at the raised bed when we first planted it at this, mid-spring, and then there at the end of spring, huge transformation. And again, I've water soluble fertilized those 1 time. That is it. That great soil makes all the difference in the world. Starter fertilizer, huge, huge difference when you're planting your annuals. All right, my friends, so we had to change location because the sun was coming up and getting a little too bright. So we're sitting here behind the garden shed and in this flower bed that we created this year. We really kind of developed this garden because we were hosting, right, our first annual Creekside Signature Experience the first day of summer. We'll talk about that in the summer recap. And I cannot tell you how excited I am and how pleased I am with how this flower bed has developed, right? Putting in those annuals with the sunflowers and the vertigo grass and the petunias, right? All sorts of salvias, gorgeous. So this spot has really been a fun development that I really didn't anticipate this spring doing. That's the thing about here at Creekside, right? We always just have kind of spur of the moment. Yes, we have big projects in our brain that are coming down the pipeline, but we also just, you know, on a whim, we're like, oh, well, let's do this or let's do that. So this is an example of one of those flower beds that was not on the master plan, but it was created this past spring. Could not be happier with how it is doing. Now, if you have followed us, you know that May was a bit of a challenge for us here at Creekside Nursery because, like all, you know, challenges in life, you don't really see them coming. So on May 8th, we experienced a flash flood here at the nursery. We historically always have very wet winters and very wet early springs. So we get tons and tons of rain just naturally here where we are in North Carolina. This spring was absolutely no different. So we had a very wet spring. There was many Saturdays where we had plenty of rain. And on May the 8th, it was a Wednesday, we had a strong storm system come through late in the afternoon, and it dumped 5 inches of rain in 30 minutes. Now, the Saturday previous to that, we had 7 inches of rain in about a 6 to 7 hour time period. So the ground, to say that the ground was already saturated was an absolute understatement. So we had extremely saturated ground. Then we had this storm that comes through with very strong winds. There was actually 2 tornadoes in our county. We were actually between the 2 tornadoes, so praise the Lord we didn't experience a tornado, but we did get those 5 inches of rain in that 30 minutes. Creekside is called Creekside for a reason, y'all. We have a creek that literally cuts our property. It is what it is. There is, we get water from all directions when we have these storms. We have lived on this property for 20 years. I grew up on this property, so I have lived here for 46 years. And the only other time that we have experienced flooding like we did here was back in 1989 with Hurricane Hugo. Yes, the creek will overflow. That is not unusual. We have prepared for that. We kind of route the water where it's supposed to go. But when you have the amount of water that we did, what happened is it flooded the shrub lot, which again, that's happened before. But as flash floods happen within just mere minutes, all of a sudden we had these massive currents running through the shrub lot. And when you're standing there and you see a 3-gallon shrub literally be picked up, tumbled, and then off it goes. That happened took place for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And so Jerry, Jackson, and myself had already gone over to the nursery, crossed the creek before the flash flood happened. Our girls were on the house side. And so we were kind of separated, which actually worked out good because, you know, we couldn't get back across. Our girls obviously are old enough to drive and do all those things. So we were communicating back and forth, but we lost about 40% of our shrub inventory off of that lot. And so people, meaning they're very good natured and they're very kind and they're like, oh, you know, shrubs are very resilient, they'll bounce back. The shrubs were gone. Like, they were not here. I can't grow a plant that does not exist on my property. So they literally were picked up and tumbled. I tell people, if you've been to the beach and you go to the ocean and you swim in the ocean, you get caught in a wave, right? And you get tumbled and then you come up and you're like, what happened? That's what happened to our plants. 3-gallon shrubs were literally picked up, tumbled, came out of their containers. We saw so many proven winter pots just floating down, shrubs completely gone. So that was a huge mental blow because we had already gone through, like, you know, spring is very busy here at the nursery, getting ready for growing all of our plants for you sweet people. We had started the online shipping, so that's a whole nother business model that we had started. And then you're just tired and then you take this mental blow. So yeah, when it first happened, it was devastating. But once you get a moment to relax and just like kind of slow down, and then because of all the amazing folks who whether they were physically out here the next day helping us clean up because they were out here, helping us do whatever it is that we needed to do, all the sweet comments, all of the prayers, all of the companies that contacted us and said, how can we help you? What do you need? Do you need, shrubs replaced? Do you need brand new pots? Do you need soil? What is it that you need? How can we help you? So that was, we very quickly were able to kind of rebound and get off of that. So we were only closed for one day. It was the next day where we had to clean up. And then on Friday, we were back open. And then of course, our sweet friend Marshall Dirks from Proven Winners did an unexpected visit here at the nursery simply to come and check on us. And that was, oh my goodness. I was at the house and Jerry texted me, he said, Marshall's here. And I'm like, Marshall who? Marshall Dirks? And sure enough, he had come, he had completely changed all of his travel plans to come literally spend the day with us. He was volunteering, he brought his galoshes, he brought his rain boots, even though, all of the rain was already gone, but he came to help us. He was actually pulling weeds for us that day. And so we have rebounded. The nursery is back and better than ever and doing great. There are still some projects that we had some damage from where the flooding came that we're gonna have to redo. Mostly like drainage, because there was so much soil that got caught up and some of our French drains, some of the, just the drainage systems got clogged up. So that's gonna take a little bit of time and cause a kind of a big of a mess to make all of that drainage system work, but it's something that we're gonna have to do and take care of. So other than that, we have rebounded from the flood, and it was definitely one for the storybooks, something that we will never forget. But I think what touched us most was the outpouring of love and support from all of you sweet people and all of our local friends who came to help us on that day. In our videos, I try to really be educational, right? I try to teach you things that you can do in your garden, because I figure if I have to do it in my garden, then odds are somebody else has to do it in their garden as well. One of our biggest viewership videos from this past spring was talking about how do you trim your butterfly bushes. So I literally went through with you in the privacy berm and I showed you how to trim your butterfly bushes, because buddleias do bloom on new growth. We need to prune them. That's very important, and y'all loved that video and just responded really well to that. The pink cascade too, if you remember, it was half of the plant was dead because it had, from the cold winter winds, it had killed half of that bush. And so I showed you, I was like, listen y'all, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take it down to the ground in this one section because it was dead. Nothing else was gonna grow on that. Trust me, it will rebound. And sure enough, she did. She is big and she is beautiful, nice and full. Same thing with those poster butterfly bushes on the other side, right? How do you prune those butterfly bushes? Because we want beautiful flowers in our garden. And so there is a bit of maintenance that has to take place sometimes, whether it is with annuals or perennials or shrubs. Knowing that information and how to take care of those plants is really huge. And so that is something that we really strive to do here at Gardening with Creekside, is to teach you, our viewers, how to do common tasks in the garden. Jerry and I are natural educators. We went to school. We were both educators. We both taught in the school system before we started doing this. So teaching comes very natural to me. And so I never imagined in a million years that I would teach people via social media how to garden. But you know what? Here we are. And so that is what we're doing. And so I really and encourage that y'all loved that video about how to prune and trim your butterfly bushes and found it really, really helpful. And then, talking about you sweet people, this past spring, I think it was in March, we actually hit 100,000 subscribers on Gardening with Creekside. We started our YouTube channel in the fall of 2019. Didn't really hit it hard until spring of 2020, and we hit that 100,000 subscriber mark in this past spring. And I don't care who you are. If you're in YouTube, when you hit that 100,000 subscriber mark, that is a pretty big deal. YouTube finds it as a pretty big deal as well. They will send you a plaque, and so we got our button, as they call it. And so it was a fun time just to see like all of that hard work and to know that we're reaching a ton of people with our videos, not only here in the South, but across the country and even across the world. So if you haven't subscribed, we would love for you to subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button. And we get people tell us a lot is that they're like, I was subscribed and then I don't see your videos and then suddenly I'm like unsubscribed. Trust me, we are not unsubscribing you from our channel. We want you to be here. We want you to view our videos as we do these 5 videos every single week. So no matter what is happening, 5 videos will come out every single week. So if you're not seeing those 5 videos, make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you can get notified when we do publish videos. But we had a lot of fun because we did giveaways, and I hate to say even giveaways because all the trolls out there are starting to go crazy. We did thank yous, right? So we did these thank you gifts to you sweet people, just as a way to say thank you for all of your love and support over the past, I guess we'll be going on 5 years this fall. So crazy. So it is just wild that the viewership that we are getting. And so we do appreciate all of your love and support. Now, one of the big projects that is very encompassing was and always is the Patio Gardens. So we created the backyard patio. Jerry and I did a whole, oh my gosh, it was a labor of love, let me tell you. We installed the backyard patio ourselves. We had an above ground pool there that our kiddos, they learned how to swim there. They were fish, but they started to outgrow the pool. The pool was, you know, showing signs of wear and tear. The deck was as well. So we decided to take that pool deck out and put in the patio. That would have been, we really hit that. We started in 19 and then finished it in 2020, I believe it was. And so we have developed these gardens all around the patio, which is a lot of fun. Every year, y'all look forward to what am I going to plant in the deck boxes. These are raised boxes along the edge of the deck. And I have the most fun just filling it up with gorgeous annuals. Typically every year I will have some great tried and true proven winner annuals that we will put in there. So like this year I knew that I wanted to have, of course, the Super Bean Pink Cashmere. I wanted to have the Super Tunia Saffron Finch. But then there are new introductions that will be coming out the next year that we would like to add in there. So this year we added in like the Angel Face White Angelona. That's going to be new next year. There's a beautiful Kufia that we added in there as well. A brand new Mini Vista. So the Super Tunia Mini Vista Plum Vein. Beautiful, beautiful plum color. That is a great petunia. And again, when just like at the Signature Garden, when I added those plants in there, some of them were less than perfect, right? They were a little long, they were a little leggy. And I told you, I was like, just trust the process, adding tons of fresh new soil. So we used the brand new soil. We used the Land and Seed compost, lots of Biotone, lots of the Proven Winners Premium Continuous Release Fertilizer, and then that is on drip irrigation. However, we did not turn on that drip irrigation until late June because either we were getting rain or I would go through and because there's a hose right there and I would just give it water every couple of days. As the plants get bigger, the more water they need. And so now the irrigation is on, it runs every day for about 15 minutes and they are doing great. It is about time for me to give them a nice little haircut. As soon as we get past July 4th, I am chopping them, giving them a haircut so that way they stay nice and thick throughout the season. Speaking of nice and thick throughout the season, you just saw me trim back the saffron finches that are in those raised beds surrounding the patio because they are a standard Super Tunia, right? Last year I did the Mini Vista Whites, very controlled, gorgeous, loads of beautiful color. But this year I wanted to try the saffron finch. It is stunning. I absolutely love it, but it is a little bit more vigorous than my Mini Vistas. So I have to kind of keep it a little bit trimmed back so that it doesn't take over my boxwoods, it doesn't take over my camellias in those flower beds. They are doing fabulous. We did, when we went on vacation in early June, we came back and it was either slugs or it was budworms that were eating the flowers because I came back and I was like, what happened to my flowers? Like half of them were just gone. So we treated it with Sluggo, we treated it with a nice spray for the budworms, and then consistent water and about 2 fertilizers with the water-soluble fertilizer, and then they were completely flushed out. in perfect time for the signature experience on that first day of summer, and they were gorgeous. And then of course all of those flower beds around it, the Incredibles in full bloom. Just stunning. We added the new, this is the Angel Face Wedgwood Pink. That will be new for next year as well. We put those between the Incredibles and the double play doozies. They're doing fabulous. And then the Super Tunia Vista Snowdrift, that massive ribbon that you saw that we were sitting in front of right beforehand. Again, they are all doing well. Did not expect, did not plan on, as normal, most people don't, that we were going to have a rabbit issue this year. And in my plan, I was going to use a lot of the Blew My Mind Avobulus along the patio pathway. Well, clearly the rabbits really enjoyed that Blew My Mind because they literally ate it down to the nubs. Nothing was left. So I had to kind of pivot, and I was like, okay, what is a great rabbit-resistant annual that I can use as a border? Hello, wax begonias. That was the double white begonia. They have not touched it, right? So the double up white has a nice dark foliage, beautiful pure white flowers on it. The bunnies have not touched it. And then we have that Angelona, that Angel Face Perfectly Pink in the garden, and again, they have not touched those, and everything is doing great. So we're just kind of in maintenance mode and just hanging on for those, just keeping them watered when the rains don't come, and everybody is doing great. One of the big transformations that we were continuing to work on is the chicken coop. So the chicken coop, again, is a new garden. It is just reached 1 year old. That whole area, you were with us in the past. So this spring, what I was working on was, adding, what can I add in there? What are some more perennials that I can add in there? We did some fun container gardens that we were adding into. So with the Aquapot Light insert, we did a hanging basket, put that in there with a purple fountain grass. Doing great. Had to give it a little haircut, right? And then we did the beautiful copper pot, hanging pot container filled with lots of beautiful shade annuals. Again, thriving. So the one thing that I have been really trying to focus on, because in that woodland garden right off of the chicken coop, because that is brand new, and as all the beds are, but really trying to make sure that I'm keeping my plants watered, because that first year, 2 years, and when you're establishing that new garden with your shrubs, with your perennials, that is the most critical time to make sure that you get really good root systems established. And because it is underneath all of the trees, they're competing for water. There is not irrigation on that, so if it doesn't rain, then I am having to water it. Especially because I have some hydrangeas in there, and getting those roots established early on is really critical. So consistent water on my part has been really important, keeping those hydrangeas well hydrated, happy, so that those roots and systems can really expand. One thing that I know that we're going to need to do, and that we've done it on some parts of the garden, is adding in more organic matter, because in that chicken coop area, it probably is literally the worst soil that we have on our property. When I say that it is straight red clay, it is straight compacted red clay. There is not 1 ounce of organic material naturally found in those gardens. So we're just trying to come in with bulk organic matter, a compost blend that we have at Creekside, which is like 60% pine bark fines, 40% compost, just laying that down as mulch, really insulating those plants, giving them natural food through that compost, and just trying to build up our organic matter in those gardens. That is probably one of the most critical things that we're doing right now. And I need to do that underneath in that woodland garden. However, as always, there is a challenge. So with the flooding that happened on May 8th, because we had some extreme winds, and we didn't have a tornado here, but there was a microburst. And so in that chicken coop area, we had 6 pine trees about 20 to 30 feet up from the tree. They were just snapped, and not one of those snapped trees actually fell to the ground. They're all hung up in other trees, right? That's what happens in the woods. So we have a little bit of a predicament in that one of those trees is just right across my my Florida Sunshines, my spider's web, Fatsia, And so we're gonna have, it's gonna be a challenge. We have to get it down because if we don't take it down, it's gonna naturally fall. And it is a dangerous situation. Every time I go in there, I'm kind of watching the tree and listening for any kind of crackling as I'm watering the plants underneath there. So we're gonna have to either, because if the tree just were to fall exactly where it is, it would take out a good number of plants. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to do probably this fall, is really address that and get that tree down, because it is a dangerous situation. And so either we're gonna have to dig up the plants and move them temporarily so that we can safely fell the tree, or somehow get creative. I don't know, we're gonna figure it out, but that is one of those things. And so we're not going to really add a ton of new organic, compost and things in there until that tree comes down, because there is going to be a lot of machinery in there. You're going to be cutting up a tree. It's going to be a whole project. And so I know that by this fall, this winter, we're going to come in there, take care of that tree, and then add that organic matter in there. And I say all of that because I know as soon as we do that, the plants are going to be very happy. Giving them that insulation, giving them that extra food will make a huge difference. So if you're like me, and whether maybe it is that you have more of a sandy soil and you need to add in that organic matter to retain moisture, or if you're like me and you have thick red clay soil or any kind of clay soil with a lack of organic material, and you're trying to add that in there, then that is something that is a long-term project. I say that your soil is not the sexiest thing to talk about in the garden, but it is huge. It is absolutely vital. If you have great, healthy soil, then it means less work on us as gardeners. You're not going to have to water as much. You're not going to have to fertilize as much. Your plants are naturally going to be happy and beautiful, and they're going to be more resistant to diseases or powdery mildew, or those things that they're susceptible to because they're not under stress. A happy plant that's not under stress is a very healthy plant. So we want to have plants that are not under stress. Obviously, we can't control everything. We can't control if we have rabbits, or if we have deer, or if we have floods, or if we have droughts. But we do the best that we can, with what the Lord gives us in that season. We have a lot of fun projects looking forward, like to summer, right? Because we're officially in summer. So we will do a summer recap as soon at the end of summer, going into fall. We're going to have, there's so many great things to talk about. And we have big projects coming up here at the house that Jerry and I are dreaming up and going to be implementing here really soon before the fall hits. And so I can't wait to kind of share that project with you here that we have. It is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a beautiful transformation, and we cannot wait to share that with you. So be, sure to be looking for that. But whatever this season is that you're in life, whether it is a season of abundance, it is a season of challenges, it is a season of grief, whatever it is may be, just know that there is grace in gardening, there is grace in life. Your garden will be here when you're able to attend to it, and just know that we are here to both help you, support you, to give some education to you, and just offer you a bit of encouragement as we go through this life and these gardens together. As always, we so appreciate you. Y'all have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.